Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports, and you are on the record. A unique podcast, at least I hope so, that talks about the past 50 years, COVID, and the next 50 years of the sports business, where it's been, what the challenges were, and where it's going. Every week, we will theme it around major events and a mega interview, and hopefully you'll be entertained and you might even learn something. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, and you're on the record. Sports Professor Rick Horrow into the $1.3 trillion business of sports, and you're on the record. The Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers didn't just happen. Took a lot of hard work. I was involved in some of the initial steps with the Miami Arena and bringing other sports besides the Dolphins to Miami. Proud in 93, 94 with the expansion team. Most points ever by an expansion franchise. 2 years later, make the finals. Who can forget Scott Mellenby and the rat trick? Kind of inside joke. But for 1996 to 2020, the team only made the playoffs for 5 years. Wayne Huizenga buys the team for $50 million in December of 1992. Where's the benefit? Where's the hockey passion? Well, it took a while to get it back, and this last year, the championship, the Stanley Cup, 36-year-old CEO at the time in 2014, youngest ever, Matt Caldwell, appointed by Vinny Viola with the Army background, and he wins the Stanley Cup. And by the way, what a great interview. You'll hear more about it. The Bronze Star Medal, the Iraq Campaign Medal, Peacekeeper in Kosovo. A little scuffle on the ice doesn't affect this guy. It's a broader perspective of Gary Bettman, the Sun Belt strategy, the NHL, not just Tampa, but another Florida franchise. And the bottom line is the team keeps going. Average NFL franchise values are up 15%, largely because teams like the Florida Panthers have their footing. A $6 billion revenue deal with the NHL, and it only gets bigger. And that's because teams like the Florida Panthers continue to win, and folks like Matt Caldwell continue to lead well. I give you Matt Caldwell. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, and welcome to the business of sports inside the trillion-dollar industry. $1.3 trillion. I personally think that's an understatement. We're looking at the best and brightest thought leaders, opinion leaders in the industry. Love to have a kickoff guest, Matt Caldwell. He's the president and CEO of the Florida Panthers, the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. This was a team that I had a little bit of a hand in way back in the early 90s when Wayne Huizenga staked the team, bought the team, brought him to Miami, and the rest is basically history, but it's a fairly bumpy road. The man that's navigated it along with the ownership, and he'll talk about it, the person we have on as our guest today. We'll have this, as we said, every week for you, ladies and gentlemen. We're proud to have a friend and a guest, Matt Caldwell. Hey, how you doing?
Great. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Rick. Great to see you.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. So, first of all, in 2014, you're the CEO at 36, the youngest pro sports franchise leader at the time. You get in and you realize you're inheriting a team that has had an early good start, but a little bit of mediocrity, to put it mildly, over time in a market that's a football market where everybody is from somewhere else, and the arena's fine, but you hadn't taken hold yet. Are you ready to say thanks, but no thanks for the job? Of course not. How do you feel about it?
Well, I'll tell you, the Viola family has been wonderful to me, and I've worked with them for many years. And I was in their family office when they bought the team. And for the first 2 years, I was kind of like an owner's rep for the team. And I was living in New York, and I was visiting and really just giving Vinny, the patriarch, lay of the land. And it was, as you mentioned, it was a massive turnaround situation. They had some early success during the Wayne Huizenga years, but between the Huizenga ownership and the Viola ownership was about a 14-year period where they only had one playoff appearance. They had moved the team to Sunrise, Florida, so they weren't in like downtown Miami anymore. And in any market, especially South Florida, you have to win. And there was a lot of turnover, whether it was ownerships or management. So the fan base really lost faith in the team, and there was rumors of relocation. There was, of course, poor attendance problems. Sponsors were fed up. So our work was cut out for us. But the Viola family was completely dedicated to winning and turning things around. And it was, on one hand, it was gratifying to be, the youngest CEO in sports at the time. But on the other hand, I knew the difficult challenge at hand, and there was a lot that I had to learn. I had a good track record with the Violas, and they had faith in me, and they wanted to try someone different to try to turn the team around. So as I sit here about 8 years later, I'm really excited that I made that move. But it was definitely a bumpy road getting here.
Who wouldn't be excited in retrospect? But yeah, bumpy road. But let's everybody understand who Matt Caldwell is relative to the bumpy road. 5 year service of our country, graduated West Point, Iraq, Kosovo, a NATO Kosovo military medal, Iraq campaign medal, a Bronze Star medal. People don't understand the nature of your history and your experience, and they've got to. Proud of you, proud of being in this industry, and certainly qualified you for the relatively mundane job of winning a Stanley Cup.
I appreciate that. No, I think Vinny knew that I've been through a lot in my life in a short, 30, 35 years or so. And, after the Army, I had been to business school and law school, worked on Wall Street. We had tried some industry veterans that were great, but we really looked at this situation that you had to be unorthodox. It's ice hockey in South Florida. It's a team that struggled. It's hard to take the playbook from New York or Boston or Chicago and apply it to the situation we had. So I think he was excited to have someone that had a fresh perspective. It's all about getting the right culture in place. It's about hiring the right people. And I think he had faith that I would, put a lot of hard work into that. And, it's perseverance is the key to everything. And he knew I wouldn't give up. He knew I'm used to long hours. So we knew it would be, a lot of obstacles to overcome, but we had faith that we can get through it.
So, it's demeaning to ask this question, but it's only in a spirit of fun. What's harder, Kosovo, Iraq, or a city or county council when you want public money for an arena?
Well, I'd say Iraq was the hardest because that was full on combat. So
yeah, right.
I'll take any environment where there's no bullets. Kosovo was more of a peacekeeping operation, so a lot of the fighting had already finished by the time I got there. So I would say that turning the team around and redoing our arena lease and getting the government to believe in us. I mean, rightfully so. The local county had been through a couple of different ownerships and different leaders. Promises weren't always kept up. So, we had a lot of faith. We had a lot of trust to earn. I think, all the philanthropic work that we did, the commitment to the community, and then the commitment to winning. I mean, they saw, we didn't win a Stanley Cup right away, but the market is smart. They can tell when you're trying, when you're spending to the cap and you're making big moves and bringing in big coaches and big free agent signings. We said it from day one. We can't guarantee wins and losses, but we can guarantee how we treat people. We can guarantee how we commit ourselves to the community, and that'll be first class because there's no excuses why that can't be first class.
And Matt, I think one of the most important things, I guess, from my many-year elder perspective of growing up in this market, is that it's a skeptical market that quickly turns cynical, and it's a skeptical football market. When you come back after law school, as I did, and you realize that the Dolphins are going to go undefeated every year. They don't read the memo that says they don't quite do that. And then you got 2 baseball championships, you got 3 basketball championships, and you got everybody admits, underperforming hockey franchise that people don't care about in the first place, to be honest about it. What's the first thing you did to say, I've got to change the presumption in 2014 when you came into power?
So the first thing we did was we sat down with the season ticket holders, right? At the end of the day, for any sports franchise, I mean, they're your lifeblood,
Yeah.
right? People that are putting their hard-earned money to come to every single game. And it was a small base. It was only 3,000 or so people that were buying season tickets at the time. But those are your most passionate fans, right? They're not only are they, your biggest revenue stream, but they're kind of like your sales force that's out in the market, right? So if you're treating them well and they're excited, they're going to tell their friends, and word of mouth is still, the best form of marketing. And when we sat down with the season ticket holders, we literally went door to door and listened to everyone. It's like a grassroots campaign. It's almost like a political campaign,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And which is pretty topical right now with this week.
Very.
And I think the season ticket holders, they were skeptical of us at first because we're new ownership and they'd been through a lot. But I think they understood how much we wanted to get better, and we were listening and we were implementing change. And the number one thing they were complaining about, and they didn't coin it this way, but there was really no price integrity in our tickets, because someone would sign up for a season ticket, but then there was free tickets being given out. There was all these
Yeah.
promotions. In order to get a new season ticket holder, someone would get a free jersey, a free parking. They'd get all these little carrots to wave at them when people that have been with us since day one weren't getting all those benefits. So we made a very controversial decision early on to eliminate kind of all these gimmicks, whether it's a free ticket, whether it's kind of free benefits that you would get just for coming to our games. And that really hurt our attendance at first, because if you can imagine, if
Yeah.
somebody was getting something for free, it's hard to take that away from them. Or if they were basically getting paid to come to our games
Yeah.
through some merchandise or a free concert ticket, whatever they were using. But we took those lumps early on, because we said, hey, we're going to build this the right way. The price of our tickets were only 30, $40 at the time, our average ticket price. And we said, listen, we're going to prove ourselves. We're going to spend on the team. We're going to create a first class environment. But if you're going to come see a Florida Panthers game, you have to pay for it. We already have very low price tickets. And we went through some tough, early season attendance, crowds that made national media news, but people over time started to see, what, these guys are serious. They have conviction in what they're trying to do. Sponsors were upset because they say, we're paying these eyeballs, and we understand what you're doing long term, but in the short term your attendance is going down. But we told them, hey, we can never build this long term, with the current rates. So we have to do something different. And I think that grabbed people respect.
Right. Sorry to interrupt, but was Vinny ever in the building when there were like 800 people there and you were there and like, I got to get out the back door because I don't want to be here when season?
I've spent many nights sitting right next to him, looking around at some empty arenas, and it was tough. But he understood.
Yeah.
We were in this together. It's not like I just came up with this idea myself. We talk all the time. We talk every day, multiple times a day. So he understood the strategy. But yeah, there was definitely some nights that it was tough to see the crowds, and you can really hear the players on the ice. You can hear the puck, pretty clearly, because there's just not a lot of fan noise. But we had to go through those lumps to build what we had to do long term.
The tangible manifestation of Gary Bettman's Sunbelt strategy, which has worked almost everywhere except Phoenix, and Gary is going to go to his deathbed and he'll make it work somehow. Maybe it's the next iteration there. But what's it like to compound the problem, understanding that you've got to convince people who are Dolphin fans, and to a lesser extent Heat fans, and to some extent Marlin fans, but Bruin fans, Flyers fans, Rangers fans, Canadian fans. And by the way, these are people that are not fifth, sixth generation people here. They gave at the corporate office in Pittsburgh or in New York and all that. That's got to make it tough.
It is. We have multiple marketing strategies. So with away fans, we welcome them. So Bruins fans, Ranger fans, when they showed up, we understood that they were going to root for, the team that they grew up cheering for. But, very early on, we went to digital ticketing, where you can only get in, through a mobile ticket. And so we got people's data. We were one of the first teams to do that. And so we targeted those people. We reached out to them. We said, listen, we're not going to change your loyalties overnight, but if we played Boston 2 times throughout the year, there's another 39 games that you can come out and watch your local team. So especially if we knew people that were actually living here, not just making a trip from Boston or New York to come to a game, they're already hockey fans. So to get them to come to, an exciting game, to root for their hometown team wasn't as difficult as you would think, because we welcomed them and we said, you live here in Parkland, you live in Coral Springs, Sunrise, like you like hockey, we have a great brand of hockey we're going to bring. So that's for the away fans. For the folks that were, just moved down here and had no, like you said, fourth, fifth generation family. We invested a lot in youth hockey. We do a ton of learn to skate programs, learn to play. We run, a 3-sheet rink in Coral Springs. We built alliance with all the other rinks. We just built another 2 sheets of ice right in downtown Fort Lauderdale. So the owners invested a ton of money to grow the game. And you don't see immediate fans from that, but over time, you get one kid playing learn to skate or learn to play and gets into the Panthers at ages 6 or 7. You're creating, a lifelong fan who has, parents or guardians that takes them to the game. So that's what we did for the long term. And then, we ultimately relied on great, putting on a great experience, right? Whether it's, group tickets or, certain theme nights to appeal to people that, there's so much to do down here. There's beautiful beaches, there's beautiful hospitality, but to come to a rink, you may not know hockey, but you're gonna have a lot of fun. It's very family friendly. We did a lot to reach out to those folks to enjoy a family night out. So we had multiple prongs to the marketing strategy, and especially with the winning in the last 5 years, it's all come together.
Matthew Caldwell, CEO of the Panthers, ladies and gentlemen. You're only 44 now, right? 45, 44?
44. Yeah.
Can I buy a few years, man? I'm going to kill you. I can't believe it. You still got 40 years ahead of you, man, to be so successful at this. And by the way, Gary Bettman, also a friend and, a hero. Not only does he, live down here part of the year, but this is a very important linchpin of his Sun Belt strategy. And standing by you guys, as he did the previous owners, but not as strongly, but at certain things, make sure the All-Star game happens, even after COVID doing it again. The community development program where there are NHL funds available for ice rinks and training and all. I assume Gary's support is important for you and the organization.
Absolutely. Gary and the league have been incredible to us. They knew we were serious. They knew we were invested in the long term. They've done everything in their power to help grow the game for us. And yes, Florida, Tampa, Nashville, Dallas, all these teams, Carolina, being successful in the Sun Belt is good for the overall league. So we couldn't have done any of this without Gary's support.
Before we get into NHL stuff specifically, broadly league-wise, any surprises over the last 8 years relative to demographics? I remember doing an original study that Gary doesn't want to admit about how Cubans going to like hockey because Cubans like fighting. Man, that was a terrible study, and I can't believe we really did that. But you learn with this market. This market has a lot of different surprises, not only pockets of what might be support Hollywood Beach, but also pockets that might be and aren't support. And it is not a homogeneous market either. So, generalize the challenges that you faced in that area as well.
Yeah, the biggest surprise to me is, especially where the arena is located, it's in the middle of 3 very distinct counties. It's technically, it's in Broward County, but it's in the western side of Broward County. So we're in Sunrise. Broward County in itself is very diverse, right? Miami's super international to the south, Palm Beach to the north. A lot of hockey fans from Palm Beach, but it's also a far drive. So at first, we were trying to be everything to everyone. We were trying to market to the Latin fan base in Miami. We were trying to get a lot of the Northeasterners from Palm Beach to come to games. But ultimately, we said to ourselves, after a few years, at the end of the day, we're Broward County's team. Yeah. So we need to dominate locally. So Sunrise, Coral Springs, Parkland, Weston, all the areas right around the arena, they have the least obstacles to come to a game. It's a short drive. It's very easy to get in and out of our arena. Let's just embrace where we are and focus on fans that have no excuses, not to come to a game. Fort Lauderdale's a big market for us, but it's still, 25, 30-minute drive, depending on, where you are from Fort Lauderdale. And that was a big reason why we built the 2-sheet facility and practice facility in downtown Fort Lauderdale. So it was surprising to me that even in a 40, 50-mile radius area that you have 3 different cultures. that exists between Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami. And what we did was, hey, let's just get our base very strong. Let's focus on our season ticket holders. Let's get Broward County coming to games. And then as we get good and show consistent winning and have, we try to get as many weekend games as possible. Folks from Palm Beach and Miami, where, there's more money in those areas, especially on a per capita basis, they're going to come once we're hot and we're winning and we have, deep playoff runs. So, by focusing on our backyard was vital to getting a good fan base.
Let's talk a few business issues in the back half of this. So local media complementing the Turner ESPN, the national media seems to be set and continuing to grow. The turn to Scripps after Bally's, the appeal for the local audience, comfortable with where that's going?
Very comfortable. So a little background here, when Vinny bought the team, Fox Sports was still the local media rights provider. We inherited the worst deal in the NHL as far as guaranteed rights fee that we were receiving. So when Sinclair first bought the RSN business from Fox, we were up for renewal, and we were one of the first teams to look very, very strongly into going direct to consumer. This was in basically during COVID time period. And for us, if we're already at a pretty low, guaranteed rights fee number, we were willing to take a risk of going DTC, which everyone knows is going to take some time to build up, rely on streaming. But as a result of that, we were actually able to get a significant increase during a renewal period with, Bally's and the Sinclair Diamond Sports. Once we did that, about a year after that, Bally's did go into bankruptcy, which sent the whole local media rights business into a tailspin. Last season, many NHL, NBA teams were worried about production and getting games on. So all that uncertainty, we got ahead of it. We faced the Las Vegas Knights in the Stanley Cup 2 years ago. Las Vegas had already moved over to Scripps. And we just love their offering, especially a team that's in growth mode like us. We can't be in, a business in cable that, is dying and there's less subscribers. We need to get as many eyeballs and need to get as much distribution as possible. So having, the distribution that Scripps offers all over South Florida, whether it's Miami, Fort Myers, Palm Beach, right here in Fort Lauderdale, that right there just increased the number of households that we can get into. And then they were also open to working with us on the direct-to-consumer side. So we have Scripps on the linear, and then we have our own Panthers Plus for anyone that has cut, TV out of their home and they just want to view a game on a tablet and a phone. So for us, we want to again make sure there's no obstacles to people being able to watch our games.
Remember, Stanley Cup champions, Panthers Plus. Oh, all right. I'm not. You can do that. You can sell yourself. So NHL $6+ billion business. Cap looks good. You've got Marty Walsh and Gary Bettman getting along in the playground. You've got the fans at 97% capacity. You've got the ESPN and Turner deals up 7% viewership, the most watched cable in 30 years, and on and on. I assume you feel pretty bullish about where the league generally is going?
Absolutely. Yeah, the way Gary and the league have gotten through COVID, have gotten us great national media deals, the Canadian national deals up in a few years. It seems like the players union in the league are having, great discussions already for renewing the CBA. So it's very happy with where the league's going. You can see franchise values being published and the league is just a tremendous growth and the Panthers are at the top of that.
So the franchise value stuff, people see numbers and they get scared. The people with the low numbers don't believe Forbes or Sportico or anybody else. It is, I don't know, as a sports business guy, a little concerning that you're the Stanley Cup champions and the rankings have you in the lower quarter. You're in a market that's emerging, so I guess that's it. Do you ever read those numbers? Do you look at those numbers?
We definitely look at it. Listen, it's not an exact science. I mean, the sports business world, there's still teams that operate at a cash flow loss, at least during the regular season. Right. So, winning is definitely the main ingredient to increasing your revenue. But, just because you win the Stanley Cup doesn't mean you're going to go right to the top of the rankings. I mean, Toronto Maple Leafs, God bless them, they haven't won a cup since the 60s, right? But they're the number one
1860s. Oh, sorry.
But hey, they have the highest revenue
Yeah.
and presumably the highest franchise value. So there's a lot of brand recognition. There's your fan base. There's sponsorship. There's so many components to the franchise value. So us, our growth rates have been tremendous. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight where you win the cup and you get to the top 10.
Yeah. Okay. So in the future, we're going to start it in a couple of months. The international series, Sweden, Finland, U.S., Canada, alternating with the Olympics. Do we the All-Star game fit in there? Do we like the way that's unfolding for winter break hockey, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, the more growth and the more international exposure for the game, I think is, net is a positive, right? It is an interruption to the season, as we all know. But we know it's important to the players. It's important for the league to grow. We just got back from Finland. The team was in Finland for a week. We played 2 games there to see the exposure we have 4 Finnish players. Sasha Barkov's become one of the biggest stars in the NHL. So we saw the value firsthand to playing internationally. So to have the players be able to play for their countries, which I know is very important to them, we think is a positive.
You know how the Chiefs try to grab Germany and the Jaguars try to grab London. Are you going to grab Finland?
We're open to
of course
countries that want to support us. We're like Switzerland back in the day. We're neutral as long as everyone.
You're neutral, but I think Gary Bettman ought to give you a Stanley Cup premium where you get choice of 2 or 3 countries and they can tag along. Hey, it's just me. Future of the franchise, getting to where you are has been just absolutely incredible as a guy that has a rat collection from 1995 and Scott Mellenby. So I appreciate your history. But it's going to be difficult, less difficult now, though, but to sustain the excellence. I know you're up for the task, but what are you prepared to do to kind of get to work every day and say, we're going to kick some ass?
Well, I mean, listen, it starts with the hockey team, right? We have 4 forwards, Sasha Barkov, Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Reinhart, Carter Verhaeghe, now signed for 6+ years. We're shoring up our defense. We just extended Gustav Forsling. We just extended our coach. We extended our general manager. So that kind of stability in a hard cap league is vital. And we're creating what we term a destination franchise where players can come here to win. It's expected to be competing for the Stanley Cup every year, but also love their lifestyle and love going to the beach and love living in these beautiful neighborhoods. And South Florida has a lot to offer. In the past, people would pick the Panthers just for the lifestyle part, right? We didn't have the track record of winning, and so that results in players that are maybe getting ready to retire or not as focused on the team as opposed to themselves. So that's first and foremost. We're investing in our business side. I mentioned the 2 Sheets of Ice that we launched in Fort Lauderdale. There's also a small music venue that we just completed, 3,500 capacity. So we're going to have smaller shows that can't play at our arena. They'll be in Fort Lauderdale. We're partnered with Live Nation at both venues. So having all those tentacles to reach the market and create more sports fans is imperative for our growth.
Are you Dolphin, Heat, Marlin fan? Winning lifts all boats, all that metaphor, or we secretly want? Yeah. I assume you do.
Listen, there's so much, especially post-COVID, there's so much demand in South Florida. There's so many people moving here, businesses moving here. So for us, we don't see it as the other teams aren't as much a competition versus the beautiful beaches and restaurants and golf and everything that the South Florida has to offer. So if we put on a good product and show people a good time in our arena, people are going to come back. So, I'm a local now. I've built a family here, so we root for the other teams as much as possible.
Good. Well, final kind of big question, which is it's I guess it's all about the future. So I know you have memories and you got to think about it. So you're on the battlefield of Iraq. You make the transition to a boardroom. You're at Northwestern. law school, great undergrad school. Can't went there, can't vouch for law school, but the undergrad's great. Yeah, but you went through this history. Did you ever imagine that in 2014 and now you're 8 years running a franchise that wins the damn Stanley Cup?
Never imagined it. I think the lesson learned is be present and do great at whatever's right in front of you. So many young kids, I was probably like this when I was 25. You're worried about, steps, 2 through 10. Well, we'll focus on step 1. And, when I left Goldman Sachs to go work for Vinny, I was so excited to work for someone of his stature and such a successful businessman. I was willing to do whatever he needed. And I was running his family office and working on all the different investment opportunities that come across his way. I never imagined that would lead to sports, but he bought the team and it was a major turnaround situation. He needed someone that he trusted to lead the turnaround. So I jumped on that opportunity and here I am today. If I was worried about, family office opportunities and getting back to the family office to lead another company, I probably wouldn't have done as good of a job as we did as a team here.
What an incredible insight, Matt Caldwell. Thank you very much for your time. South Florida is in good hands. The up-and-coming Hall of Fame sports executive for the Sunshine State. Sports professor Rick Horrow, the business of sports inside the trillion-dollar industry. We'll be back with a thought and opinion leader next week. Be back right after this.
Matt Caldwell has a lot to say about the business of sports with the newest Major League champion in South Florida. Now let's look at the 5 to watch over the last week or so. What's been happening in the world of sports as we normally do. Number 1, NFL bettors are stinging DraftKings, FanDuel, and the others, costing the company at least $250 million. The game outcomes that favored the public, it's a big company, but it is on a thread when it comes to game outcomes. DraftKings reported revenue of $1.1 billion. They matched revenue estimates on the street and otherwise, by the way. But the revenue seems to be in the range of 6.2 to 6.6 billion for DraftKings. The industry estimate's about 5.8. Jason Robbins, the CEO, in a letter to shareholders, said largely due the lack of revenue to NFL games that broke against the sports book. Typically games won by the favorites, as the publics tend to put more money behind the better teams. The quarter and fourth quarter contain the bulk of NFL season activity, which draws the most bets and the most volatility, by the way. So, it's behind, but the volume is going to catch up. And by the way, the same kind of gaming news from another perspective. Missouri passes the legislation legalizing gambling, becoming the state that's closer now to 40 of them and maybe more in the future. A combined $41 million on the campaign. FanDuel, DraftKings themselves, one of the 2 largest online sports books in the country, FanDuel and DraftKings together. DraftKings stock up about 12% this year, down about 20% from a high from late March. One thing is for certain, gambling is not going away and getting even bigger. So that's number 1. Number 2, WTA, Coco Guaff, congratulations to her. Comeback against the Chinese number 1 Zhang, a tiebreaker after a dramatic third set. She wins $4.8 million, the highest payout in the history of women's tennis. But that's not the story. The story is Saudi Arabia. Last November, it hosted the country's first official pro tournament with the next-gen ATP finals in Jeddah. Last month, again, that's true, but next month, the Six Kings Slam, half dozen top men players, guaranteeing each player about $1.5 million, $6 million prize for the winner. Yannick Skinner, the current number 1, said, "Hey, I don't play for money." Yeah, well, Carlos Alcaraz may be more realistic. He says, "Yeah, I don't play for money generally, but this has to be a consideration." That's number 2. Number 3, in a college football legal note, Vanderbilt QB Diego Pavia challenges the NCAA's eligibility rules over NIL earning potential. Currently Vanderbilt superstar, I would say, but he's challenging the NCAA under the Sherman Antitrust Act, claiming that the organization's monopoly on college athletics limits opportunities for junior college athletes. They're not counting their JUCO years, or they are, against the eligibility. He led New Mexico Military Institute's junior college to a championship 5-year span. 2020 transfers to Mexico State and then to Vandy. And he says, look, if I can't be eligible, I do not get significant NIL revenue. And he finishes a successful season with Vanderbilt. It underlines and highlights the friction between the NCAA policies and student athletes seeking to maximize their NIL value in a rapidly evolving sports landscape. As number 3. Number 4, the NFL and UEFA rights help Paramount as a banner year for subscriptions and the obvious streaming. It's a signal for others. CBS Sports parent company, Paramount Global, consumer profitability in its most recent financial quarter. Q3 earnings reported a record addition of 3.5 million subscribers to Paramount Plus at the end of September. Streaming services quarterly revenue grew by 25% compared to the same period in 2023. And Paramount's overall DTC income shot up 10% to grow to $1.69 billion. Paramount's $8 billion merger with Skydance Media still on the table in the first half of 25 to be completed. Looks like it increases the value even more. So that's number 4. And then number 5, Thursday Night Football, the viewership through the charts. Season's numbers this year averaging about 12 million viewers. TNF now averaging about 13 million this year. All the numbers are in, about 4% increase in the numbers from last year. The Texans-Eagles in 2022, highest number ever. Let's remember the World Series featured those two cities with games happening on the same night. So magic there. But the other deal with the Thursday Night Football, 18 to 34, up 3% from last year. By the way, the median age for Thursday Night Football, this is very important for some, now about 48. The rest of primetime television, 63, and the average for NFL broadcasts, 55. You talk about reaching a young audience, this is really important. That's going backwards. Let's go forwards. So the top 5 issues to be looking at, 5 to watch for the next couple of weeks. Number 1, Under Armour. The stock prices surge. The company seems to be doing better under reinvigorated Kevin Plank. 27% increase. The consumer confidence shows a higher number, even if year-over-year revenue has dipped. The more premium positioning, say Kevin Plank, supported by substantial marketing statements and endeavors for 2025. Plank assured stakeholders that the company is on track to establish a stronger market presence, particularly it readies for what he calls the most significant marketing effort in Under Armour's history, slated for next year. Number 2, World Rugby Fanatics relationship. Fanatics is the largest retail company in terms of growth on the planet, to be sure. Rugby, almost as big. The Men's World Cup 2027, Women's World Cups 2025, 2029. The e-commerce, in-venue retail, wholesale, memorabilia, licensed products. They're trying to capture the entire rugby market, given their environmental sustainability plan, Rugby's, for 2030. Fanatics' extensive audience, experience, and partnership with 900 global entities carried the day for rugby, and the sky's the limit. As number 2. Number 3, the NHL and Extreme Networks expand their in-arena partnership. Already the central Wi-Fi analytics partner of the league through data unveiled in January 22. Now, as a result of the deal's expansion, specific NFL clubs, including the Flames, the Ducks, the Blue Jackets, and Nashville Predators, have been using Extreme solutions to enhance in-arena Wi-Fi connectivity, deliver fan experience, and create a backbone for new digital services. The foot traffic patterns across the arena, getting data on the efficiency of mobile concessions, or getting better sense of fan preferences, the NHL is operating key Wi-Fi data, continuing to improve the game day experience, and more is coming with the NHL and Wi-Fi, and that's number 3. Number 4, Australia. The sports tech sector in Australia has reached nearly $5 billion, showing amazing maturity, reaching a valuation that includes reports from the Australian Sports Technology Network of evolving timing systems, quantum technology, advanced positioning, artificial intelligence, getting ready for the Brisbane 2032 games, approximately 12% of the overall Australian sports economy, 15,000 individuals employed across this span, and the figure represents an overall sports industry that continues to grow. And then finally, look at number 5. Rory McIlroy talks about the second term of Donald Trump, talks about maybe helping clear the way for a Live PGA Tour merger through the DOJ guiding the deal. The DOJ having forced already a non-solicitation clause to be removed from the framework of the agreement. Remember that Trump has a close relationship with Saudi Arabia. He has a close relationship with Liv, and obviously will have a close relationship with the Justice Department. And Rory McIlroy says, look in the future to Donald Trump's involvement, hastening potentially a merger. And certainly with Elon Musk, he volunteers, it may not hurt either. Well, those are the things to look for in the future, as well as what we've seen in the past. We'd like to thank Matt Caldwell and his vision for guiding the Panthers in the past and in the future. We'd like to thank Khaled Kazir for helping us put the podcast together as usual. I'd like to thank you for listening and watching. Joining us once again as we continue to explore the inner workings of the $1.3 trillion sports business. I'm the sports professor, Rick Horrow. Speak with you soon.